Hello, it's Ashley here from Paper&Twine. This is my second go at doing this video. I did start and then somebody came to the door and there was nobody in the house, so I had to stop. So I'm starting again, and I've actually had a little bit of a better idea of how I'm going to plan this video for you. So welcome to what I hope will be the first in a series of basics card making techniques. I want to start off first of all by talking about tools that you might need to invest in. You don't have to start out with these, but if you want a nice professional looking finish to your cards, then I do advise that you invest in some of these. They will last you forever and you'll get a lot of use out of them. So the first thing that I want to talk about, I've got so much stuff on my desk, so do excuse me, is my paper trimmer. So there are lots of different paper trimmers on the market. This is a Fiscus one. I've had this about 5 years. I used to have just an ordinary guillotine that you might find in a school. It was an A3 guillotine, but I found it wasn't cutting very straight. So I've invested in this Fiscus paper trimmer. It has an extendable arm so that it measures up to 15 inches, which is about 39 centimetres, and that just folds in for useful storage. It has a little blade in a channel, and the beauty of this as well is that you can also get replacement blades for these. I think they're about £7 for two, but they do last quite a long time. And you can also get a scoring tool. So that is something that is also really, really useful. You also need some scissors. I'm not very good at cutting with scissors, which is why I like my paper trimmer. And whenever I make a card, it always comes out. So you'll get your money back on it. You know, use for use. It's probably, excuse me, the most valuable piece of equipment I've got in my craft room. I've then got some Fiscus. I'm not sponsored by them. Some long scissors. I'm not very good at cutting straight. I think these are actually dressmaking scissors, but I use them for cutting paper and card if I need to just trim something down. And then if I want to cut something out, I've got these little scissors from Tim Holtz for what they call fussy cutting. So if you've stamped an image and you want to cut it out, when you cut around the edge, it's called fussy cutting for some reason. But I've had these scissors a very long time and I love them. They're really comfortable. They've got like a rubber handle, very nice and easy to grip. So that's my scissors. The next thing I want to talk about is a scoreboard. So when you're making a card, there are various ways you can go about it. You can buy card blanks, and I did that for my 40 cards on a budget video. And the background card itself was very good quality. It was a good weight. I'll talk about weight in a minute, but the finish wasn't entirely perfect. This is in my stash. It is a really thin quality card blank. Don't know what the weight of this is, but you can hear it's a bit flimsy, a bit pathetic, but it does come with a score line. It's 13.5 centimetres by 27, and you just fold it in half. Now, if you just use your fingers to fold, some people don't actually like the feel of paper, so they don't like doing that. So what you would need is something called a bone folder. This is one that I got free with my Stampin' Up order. I haven't quite got to grips with this yet. But it is very sturdy. This is the tool that I like to use, and I shall demonstrate that in a minute. But that gives a really nice, clean, crisp edge to your card. And I think if you're investing time into making a card, you want it to look as nice as you possibly can. So I have this Hoogie board. It's a scoreboard. There are various models on the market. This one has centimetres on one side and inches on the other, which is always very useful. The drawback of this is that it only measures in ½ inches and ½ centimetres. You can get scoreboards. I know Stampin' Up, for example, do one where you can get different increments of measurements, if that makes sense. So the scoreboard has little channels, and you place your card in, line it up in the corners, and with your tool just score a line and simply fold. And when you do that action, it's called burnishing. So you burnish to get a nice crisp fold. So my scoreboard will be coming back out when I demonstrate a couple of simple techniques. It slides in down the bottom of my desk, you can't quite see, against the legs there, which is quite nice. So that's my scoreboard and a tool. I like this, but I'm going to get used to using this. So let's just pop those there. The other thing that is always useful is a steel-edged ruler. So you might want to use a craft knife to cut out shapes or cut out pieces of card or chipboard, which your paper trimmer won't do. And with a craft knife against a steel-edged rule, you'll get a really nice clean cut. So that's something else that I recommend. I'm going to pop that back in my little tool caddy there because I don't need that today. The other thing I've had for years is, as you can tell perhaps by all the marks on it, I have tried to get these off, but I think it's a sign of a busy crafter, isn't it, that it's a bit messy. This is a heat-resistant, self-healing cutting mat. It's bigger than A3, I think it must be an A2 size. I have got a little warp in it where I've overheated it, but it serves me perfectly well, and it's got grids on it so you can line things up. I just use it really to protect my desk, and if I am doing any heating, I know I'm not going to damage my desk, and if I'm doing any cutting, I know that those cut lines will not damage my cutting mat. Some people use glass mats, and I would absolutely love the Tim Holtz multimedia mat, which has glass on one side and it has a little section that's got silicone for your inking, but that's a long way off yet. If you wanted to use glass, I mean, the beauty of glass is that it's very easy to clean. I'd go somewhere like Home Bargains or the Range and just buy a glass chopping board and use that as your crafty mat. I'm sure you can pick them up really reasonably priced. If you didn't want to use a glass mat or a self-healing cutting mat, newspaper or old paper, old magazines, just to protect your work surface, would be absolutely fine. I use baby wipes to clean my stamps. These are just cheap from Aldi. New pack there, just bought today because I'd run out. And I use kitchen roll as well. Again, just cheap kitchen roll, just to dry things, blot things. It's very useful. The other thing that I would invest in, particularly if you've got nice handwriting, my handwriting tends to be a bit all over the place, so I wouldn't say that I've got a nice handwriting style, but invest in something like this black micron pen. These are made for Zentangles, which is a kind of doodling. Gives a really nice finish, and if you wanted to write a little sentiment on the front of your card, this is a really nice little pen, so I would invest in that. And then finally, as a basics toolkit, you need some kind of ink if you're going to rubber stamp. So I use the VersaFine Black Onyx ink, which is a fine detailed pigment ink pad. So ink pads come in two types. They come in pigment, and you can get different colours. Sometimes you might need to dry them with a heat tool. You can emboss with a pigment ink, which again is something I'll do in another video, but this is a really good ink pad, really good quality. I've had this for a couple of years and it's still really juicy. I believe you can buy the re-inkers for them, so you wouldn't necessarily have to buy the pad again. So those are my basic tools. So it might cost you about £30 to start. Of course, you could look on eBay, or you might have a friend who's crafty who you can share things with. So it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. The next thing you need is a really good quality card stock. Now, I get most of my cardstock from my local paper craft store, Dragon's Papercraft. Obviously in the UK we're in lockdown at the moment, and Hazel and her husband Paul, bless them, they're shut, but they have got a website. I've been on there this morning and I've had a look at the cost of their stamping card. They've got an offer at the moment. All orders over £30 are free delivery within the UK. And she's got a whole range of card products on there, including pre-made but not necessarily scored card blanks. I like to buy A4 pieces of card because that's flexible. You can make your own card blanks. So I've talked about this here, which I don't know where it came from. Can you hear how flimsy that is? Very, very lightweight. Now, when we talk about card, we talk about the weight of it, and that is not a very heavy weight, very flimsy sound. But I'm going to be using this today to show you some techniques so that I don't waste my expensive cardstock. This, can you hear the difference in the sound? This is 300 or possibly even 320 GSM card. It's an A4 sheet and it gives me flexibility so I can make my own card blank out of it. Now the cost of card on Hazel's store varies. Her most popular card is something called Dragon's Stamping Card. It's 300 GSM. I think GSM stands for grams per square metre. I'm not sure, but that is a really good sturdy weight and will serve you very, very well. You can stamp on it, you can ink on it, you can blend on it, you can stencil through a stencil with stencil paste, you can watercolour on it. Very versatile, and she's charging £9 for 40 sheets. Here's Blue, she's going to sit right in the middle of the mat. I shall get rid of her in a minute. So £9 for 40 sheets, that works out at 22.5 a sheet. She has got another cardstock which I myself haven't ever used. It's super smooth white. It's slightly bigger than A4. It's 21 centimetres by 30 centimetres. And the beauty of that, it means that you can get a nice 15 centimetre square card. I think A4 is about 28.5 centimetres long. And she's selling 40 sheets of that for £7, which works out at 17.5 a sheet. And that is 300 GSM. I've checked with her this morning because that wasn't on the website. She's got a really good sale section going on there at the moment. Give her a go. She and Paul are so friendly. When their shop's open, do go and pay them a visit because they're very, very helpful. You know, sometimes you go into a specialist shop and the owners can be really unfriendly and kind of act superior as if they know it all. They're not like that at all. They will explain things to you, they'll help you out. They're really, really lovely people. So go support them, go support local businesses. I think it's really important in this time of lockdown. Now she's just sat down as Blue right in the middle of my desk. Let's see what's next on my notes. So the next thing I want to talk about are types of rubber stamp. So when I started stamping round about 25 years ago, there wasn't a lot of different types of material for rubber stamp on the market. There were lots of companies, don't get me wrong, but there weren't a lot of different types of stamp. Most stamps in the UK came mounted on a wooden block like this, and I've got a few that are on wooden blocks. The downside of these for me personally is that I'm not very good at stamping with them, and the other downside is that they take up quite a lot of space in your storage. So if you haven't got much storage, that can be a little bit of a disadvantage. But I've had this for quite some time. I'm going to stamp with it in a minute. This I bought from a craft fair, some kind of Indian stamp. I think these are meant for use with paint rather than ink, but I thought that was quite nice. And then I was looking through my stash this morning, and bear in mind I have been stamping for 25 years, so I have got a lot of stuff. I found these stamps which might fit into my Valentine's vibe. I do need to check the angel policy on these. So some companies have a free angel policy where you're free to use their products to make your own things to sell, as long as everything is hand stamped and hand coloured. So this is from Hero Art, so I need to give them a little shout out. Well, not a shout out, I need to check out. And then this one is quite a big stamp there, very heavy. I think if you suffer with weak wrists or have arthritis, wooden stamps might not be the way to go. And in fact, actually, it is quite rare now when you're starting out to see stamps that are wood mounted. The other thing that you used to be able to buy, and you still can, is sheets of red rubber that you cut down different images. You can see this one I've never used. This one, however, is very, very used. I've had this a very long time and was a very favourite image at one point. And what you do with these is you use a temporary spray, such as Stick and Spray. This is from Crafter's Companion. And again, I got this from Dragon's Papercraft. I'm not sure whether she's got these on her website, but places like The Range often sell these kinds of products. And all you do, I'm just going to show you, because I'm going to show you this stamp in a minute. You spray on the back of your stamp and you'll see the glue bubbling. It's a temporary adhesive. And you just mount it onto an acrylic block. Now, acrylic blocks come in all shapes and sizes. I showed you how I used them to create backgrounds. This one's just plain, but these Paper Mania ones, which again you can get in the range, have a little grid on them. This is quite a thin one. This one, I don't know where I got it from, is much thicker and heavier. And I've got a little one there, little square one that I like. And you can even get circular tubes. These are useful for if you've got a little tiny image. You just pop it on and you just stamp. I'm going to show you how I make a background with those, a simple background with those in a minute. So those are acrylic blocks and some types of stamp. Now today in the UK, it's very common to see these types of stamps, which I've showed you before, from Inky Doodles. They're clear photo polymer, and they come on a sheet. Just take the backing off, and they're slightly sticky. Let's go for this actually, this tiny little star one. And I can put it on my little acrylic block, and you just go in and stamp. And then you just clean those with a baby wipe. So those are those. Now, again, I've been on the Inky Doodles website this morning. This set that I bought, which is called Summer Garden, I think is incredibly good value. There are 29 individual stamps on there, including some words, and it is currently £8, which is marvellous value. She's even got some sets that are as little as £1.50. So go and have a look on there. I'll try and leave a link to both Dragon's Papercraft and Inky Doodles in the description box below. So that's some types of stamps. Simple cards. So what can you do to make a simple card? Let me just move that down there a minute. You can use card blanks, as I've said before, and I'm going to do that with this here. So this is 13.5 centimetres squared when I've folded it up. So just be careful to line it up properly. Coming in with my score tool or bone folder, and I'm burnishing that crease. Now, the simplest thing, if you haven't got any stamps, is to find a picture that you like out of a magazine, or recycle a card. So I've got a Christmas card here, and it is bigger than my card base. So I'm going to use my paper trimmer. Sorry, Blue. Off you go. Off you go. She likes sitting there by the window, and on some of my videos you might have heard a little squeaking sound. That's actually her, what I call barking at the birds. We get some pigeons and magpies in the tree just outside there, and she likes barking at the birds. So I'm using my paper trimmer, and I'm just going to cut along the fold line. Now that doesn't like it because it's got quite a good fold on it, so I'm just moving it along a bit. That's better. I've got a nice clean cut. Just put that down there, and I'm going to cut a little bit off the edge here. It's got a sentiment on, so I want to try and avoid chopping off the sentiment. I'm going to cut a little bit off this side here. And then just give that a little measure. So I've got 12 centimetres. So I ideally want this to be 12 centimetres. So let's see if I cut off there. That's fine. You can still see that it's Father Christmas. Just get rid of that. I'm going to put my paper trimmer down here because Blue is in the way, aren't you? And then I'm going to come in with my card blank, make sure it's the right way, and just layer that on the card, place it where I want it, and think, yeah, that's fine. Let's stick it down. So I didn't talk about adhesives. There are various ways you can stick your cards, your layers onto your card base. The most simple one, of course, is a liquid glue. There are many on the market, different qualities, different prices. I like this glue from Collal. It gives you what they call wiggle time. So when you place your image down, if you haven't got it quite flat, or quite level rather, you can move it around until you're happy with the placement. Make sure you stick it on the right way, not like I was just going to, upside down. And there, just smoosh that down. Again, you could use your tool if you have one of these and just go over, make sure that it sticks and you don't get those little edges sticking up. So there we go. Bring that in for you, and it's a good way of recycling your Christmas cards ready for next year. So that's that. Now the other thing that you can do, again, I'm going to use one of these card blanks. They're not particularly good quality, and as I am folding them in half, the edges aren't lining up exactly. So yes, I'm just going to move that piece of card out of the way. So most simple way is to then stamp an image onto your card base. So I'm going to go with this one. I haven't used this for a very long time. I personally am not very good at stamping with wooden blocks, but let's see how we get on. So I'm going to come in with my black ink. And I take the ink pad to the stamp. Some people take the stamp to the ink pad. For me, it depends what size the ink pad actually is, but I like this way. You find what works best for you. Make sure you've got a good coverage of ink on there, and you can see, can you see it's wet? You can see the wetness, so you can see you've got quite good coverage there. And then I'm going to come in, and because I don't want it necessarily right in the centre, I'm going to just eyeball towards the top but in the middle, if that makes sense. Place it down and give it a good squeeze. And there you have a really, really simple card. A bit flimsy, these card bases. So again, it depends what you're after. And you need to find your style. But I quite like that black and white. You could write a little sentiment under there. You could stamp a little sentiment under there. Let's do that. So I've got my little stamp set that I showed you the other day. And what should we put? Just something generic, just for you, I think. Put that on my, I'll use this block actually. Put that on my block. And again, go in with my ink pad. Now this is where I would take the stamp to the ink pad because it is small. And when you're doing a fine little sentiment like this, don't over ink. So just a little bit like that. I can see that it's all covered. And the beauty of these photopolymer stamps on an acrylic block is that you can see the image and you can see exactly where you're going to place your stamp. So just down and off. And there you go. Just for you. Now you might want to build up layers in your cards, and I'm just going to stamp that off on my scrap paper here. Copier paper is also really useful to have, just to stamp off on. I'm just going to put that back on my little, I should clean it, but just for time's sake, just putting that back in there. There we go, that's that. You might want to put a layer into your card. And there are lots of things that you can do. You've seen my style, that I like things fairly plain and simple. But you don't have to be plain and simple. Find your style, find what you like. So when you're starting out, a black ink is, I think, really important. It gives you a nice, crisp, clear image. What you might then want to do is build up some colours, and I started off buying distress inks from Ranger, Tim Holtz. I haven't got the full collection. I think there's 60 colours. I've probably got about 30 that I've bought over the years, and again they last a long time, and you can buy re-inkers, and they come in a lovely range of colours, and there's lots of ways you can use them, and again I shall do another tutorial on that. But I've just picked 3 colours that I'm going to use to create a background. So I've got this one, which I think is Twisted Citron. It's one of my favourites. I've got Peacock Feathers, and I've got Picked Raspberry. Love the names of all the colours, they're so evocative. They're quite juicy little ink pads. These have had a lot of use, so they're not quite as pristine as they could be. I've got this little star image here. I'm just going to go in and just randomly stamp a background. So I'm going to build that up. And you can do what they call second generation stamping, which is where you get a paler colour. I don't know whether you can see that okay there. And if you were doing a bigger image, a nice idea is to stamp off. But again, I will do another tutorial on stamping at another day. Now I'm probably going to cover the centre of this up, so I don't necessarily want all of that pink, and I don't need to go in the middle there. So that's enough pink. I'm going to come in with a bit of Peacock Feathers. And as I said in one of my other videos, the beauty of these inks is that all the colours just somehow seem to work together. They're really lovely. Just randomly stamping. Don't think about it too much. Okay, just clean that off by stamping onto my scrap paper. Put the lid on that. And then one of my favourite colours is this Twisted Citron. It's a lovely bright green. So, doop, 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 doop. There we go. And again, don't think about it too hard. And you see I've made a splodge there. Some people would look upon that as an opportunity to cover it up with a sequin or a button or something. But there I've just made, very quickly, very simply, it's not the best, a background. And then what I'm going to do is come in with some scrap card. So I never throw anything away. The cards that I've been making to sell in my Etsy store, I trim a piece of A4 card down. Let me just show you how I do that actually. Let's bring in the paper trimmer again. And I've got my lovely thick A4 card here. So I want to open this out because what I want is a 13.5 cm square card base. So I put my long edge at the top. I've got some glue on this, but never mind. And I'll line up to 27 centimetres because obviously that is half of 13.5. And trim. And I'm left with a little piece like that, which is useful for stamping sentiments on. So don't throw those bits away. And then, because I've got glue on this bit here, I'm going to turn the card, go to 13.5, line it up, and trim again. And I'm left with this piece. Now, don't throw this away. You might be tempted to throw these smaller bits away, but be thrifty. My favourite card size to make, as I showed in my Christmas cards on the budget, is a 3-inch square card, and that is exactly what this is. So it's 3 inches, so I'll get a card out of that, plus have some left over for stamping on to create a background image. And although I've got glue on there, it's fine because I'll just use the other side and nobody will ever know. So pop that there, save that, and of course I will need to score that with my score tool, but I wanted to show you using this. So let's see, what shall we go for? Shall we go for the same image, or I've got this little bunny. Image. So again, this is really simple. Lots of people would probably colour the background, but I'm not going to. I'm going to get my acrylic block, stick that down. You can see this has been well used. Go in with my black ink again. And ink. Ooh. This little piece here, if you just keep it in your ink pad, it just helps keep it inky for longer. So I'm going to just stamp down in the corner. Again, because it's a clear photopolymer stamp, I can see my image. And there we go, we've got those little bunnies. Now, I haven't got a perfect impression there. You can see there's some little gaps in the inking. I will show you when I do a more in-depth video about stamping. You can use something called a stamp platform, and that allows you to place the stamp on the platform and repeatedly stamp in the same place. So if I was to go in with another stamping on my stamp platform, the stamp would be in exactly the same place and I could re-ink and get another layer of ink. If I was to go in with this and try and fill in the colour, it just wouldn't work. I'd mess it up. So how can you fix that? You can go in with a black pen and colour it in. Quite simple. So don't think, oh, you know, I've made a mess of that. You can rescue it quite easily. I'd use my little micron pen that I showed you, or if you've got a black Sharpie, you could go in and just add a little bit of black. So I'm going to trim this down with my paper trimmer. And I don't know whether you can you see the little wire, silver wire? That's the cutting wire. So you line that up where you want it, and then hold this down, make sure this is butted up to that top edge, and trim. And I'm going to trim that off. Now the style that I like at the moment, I would go in with a colour and I would ink around the edges, but just for speed's sake today, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to adhere that to my card blank. So come in again with your glue of choice. Some people use adhesive tape, and that's fine, it has its place if you don't like getting sticky with glue, but I just think it's quite wasteful in terms of plastic. So just going to place that, just eyeball it, stick it down, and there you go, a really simple card. Not my style, it's not the vibe that I go for, and if I was to make something like this, I would mount this central image onto a little bit of black card so that you've got the little contrast colour, just to give that a little bit more definition. Just one last thing I want to show you. I'm just going to use this piece of card that I've got left over. These red rubber stamps give a very good impression. So I've got one that I mounted on my block. The downside of using these is that you can't see the image through the block, so you just have to be a little bit careful. So I'm going in, taking the ink to the stamp because it's quite a big stamp. I'm making sure I get in all those little nooks and crannies, and you can see the ink glistening on there, so you know you've got a good coverage. Just one more for luck. Put that back on, and I'm going to come down here and press down hard. And let's hope we've got a good impression. Yeah, lovely. This is one of my favourite stamps that I haven't used for a long time. I'm glad I found it. Look at that face. It's almost like a photograph, isn't it? I've got a few of those. Really, really like that. So where can you get your stamps from? Anywhere online. Look on eBay. There's lots of people selling, destashing. Lots of beautiful shops out there, but a good way when you're starting out of building your collection is to buy magazines, paper crafting magazines. They often come with A4 sets like this. I haven't actually used this one. There's little bits that I might use. It's got some baby sentiments up there, so it's a boy, it's a girl, congratulations. Oh, pants, sorry I forgot, with a little pants there. The little birds are cute. One of the things that I like to do is a tiny little image that I've watercoloured, or sorry, a tiny little background that I've watercoloured, and then add a little silhouette image. So those little birds would be perfect for that. So yeah, look out for paper crafting magazines. they can be quite expensive, so check the price, but you'd probably pay about £7.99 for a magazine that had a stamp set like this. And there's quite a lot of stamps on there, and you also get ideas on the back, and of course you've got the magazine to help you. So a bit of a long one, a bit longer than I expected it to be. I hope you've enjoyed it. Do share, do like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you. Bye.